Hi, welcome to CIS120 Chapter 5. We're going to talk about the typography, basically all different types of fonts, font styles, font sizings, font spacing, line spacing, all kinds of different characters or data basically related to the different types of typography. So first part of the chapter talks about what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about the design principles, the measurements within the cascading style sheets, the font properties within CSS, the text spacing properties, and then build a font and text property style sheet, actually build one, and then customize bullets and numbers lists. So first thing it talks about is understanding the design principles, and it kind of gives you some guidelines on what your web page should do or what it should include. Don't have a whole bunch of different types of fonts. Kind of pick one font style and go with that throughout your entire website. It just looks a lot cleaner, a lot more robust, and just looks a lot more professional. Use the available fonts. We'll talk about that here. There's basic some standard fonts that are across the board that are available in all browsers. Those are the ones you kind of want to stick with. Legibility, making sure that folks can, and the fonts aren't real busy. There's some really wild fonts out there that you really kind of avoid. So, and then avoid using text. So we don't want to basically take a picture of text and make that a graphic, an image, a JPEG or a PNG. We actually want to use actual fonts because it's going to load faster and used across more browsers properly. So choose fewer fonts and sizes. That way we don't have a whole lot of I call it mismatch. Just a bunch of hodgepodge stuff all over the website. And this very first figure is what they're kind of looking at. So notice that we've kind of got this heading style. We'll talk about serif. I think we talked about serif and non-serif in the previous chapter. Well, here we've got a serif font. Down here we've got a non-serif font. So we've kind of mixed the two, but it looks okay because we're using the serifs as kind of our headings, and we're using the non-serif as our actual text. So here we can see that really flows very nicely. The serif fonts really look good as the headers. So here's kind of our page header, and here's kind of our section header, and then we go into the non-serif font. Very easy to read, flows very nicely. Everything looks very well. Okay, so we also want to use these things that are called common web fonts, and what those are fonts that are utilized within every browser. So they're called web-safe fonts, and these are basically available across all browsers, whether it's IE, whether it's Safari, whether it's Firefox, whether it's Chrome, Opera, any one of those. It's going to basically, all these fonts are available. Arial Black, Comic Sans, Courier New, Georgia, Helvetica, so on and so forth. You can kind of read those at your leisure there. So, and then we have what are called mobile web-safe fonts. Now, these are the fonts that are available in all mobile devices. And that's Arial, Helvetica, Courier, Georgia, Times New Roman, or Verdana. So when you're developing a website for a tablet or a smartphone or something like that, you want to stick with these fonts. Okay. Again, we talked about the serif and non-serif, which is basically what this is. So serifs have these little tags hanging off of here, and the sans serifs do not have those tags. So serif, sans serif, or non-serif. We can specify property web fonts, so we can actually go out and pick a font that's online and grab the properties and basically have it kind of download those to your browser in a temporary format so you can display that font. Realize there's a lot of overhead there. It's got to go get that font property and bring it in. So although it looks cool, we can get some really cool fonts out of it. Realize there is some overhead as far as downlink, that type of thing. So it talks about design for legibility. It shows the same paragraph in Times, Trebuchet, Arial, Verdana, and Georgia at the default browser size in Firefox and Internet Explorer. So if we take a look at those, that's basically what they look like. So here is Firefox, and here is Internet Explorer. So we can kind of see what they would look like in either one of those. So Times New Roman and Georgia are serif fonts. Trebuchet, Arial, and Verdana are not. Okay. These examples show where the text wraps at the end of each line. So that's another thing that we really need to look at as well, is where does the where's it going to split that word off at? We can see they pretty much do the same thing with the same screen size. So again, avoid creating text as graphics because now we have to deal with it as a graphic and not as a font. There's a lot more properties and things that we can control with a font that we can't do with a picture of a font. So for example, let's say I wanted Old English for my particular, well, I could go ahead and make that, create my font and then take a snapshot of that and include it in my web page. Well, it might not be the right size, it might not match up perfectly to my background I want it to, whereas if I used a font property, actual font, it would actually match up a lot better and I could actually get it to work and look more professional. So the next thing we need to look at is we've got these fonts, we bring them in, how do we basically set up a measurement type? I want this font to be a specific size, okay? So we have a lot of different measurement units. So basically what we have is centimeters, inches, millimeters, pica, and points. And to use it within our font properties, we're going to use it as a CM, an IN, an MM, a PC, or a PT. And it's a standard metric, standard inch, standard metric millimeter, standard publishing unit equal to 12 points, standard publishing unit equal to, with 72 points in an inch. Okay. PT are probably the most commonly used there. So there's 72 points within an inch. And so when we talk about points, we're talking about taking a chunk. So if I say 10, so think of 10, or think of 72 dots within 1 little inch, and take 10 of those, and how wide is that? And that's really what we're talking about. EMs, those are called M's. That is the width of a capital letter M within that font. Now realize different fonts, that M is going to be different sizes. So depending on the font we're using, it's going to depend on the width of that M. EX, which is called X, and that is the standard height of the letter X in its current font. I believe the letter X is a lowercase font. A pixel, that's probably the one that's most commonly used across the board, and that is basically the size of the pixel on your current monitor. Percentage, we can also use percentages. 100% is the actual size of that font right now. I could go 150, which is 1.5 size, or I could go 75%, which is 25% smaller. So absolute units, meaning I'm going to use like these top ones, a centimeter, inch, millimeter, pica, and point. Those are specific to a size, within an inch, within a centimeter, within a millimeter, so on and so forth. So I could actually say I want my paragraphs to have a margin of 1.25 inches, and that's inches, not the problem with those is it's not going to, I think I've talked about responsive web pages. That means things are going to shrink and grow depending on the size of the screen. When we use absolute, they don't shrink and grow depending on the size of the screen. They're absolute. They're 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches. So we really don't see those too much. Relative units is basically what we're going to use more often. You're going to see M's. You're going to see PX as pixels. So that's primarily what we're going to see all the time. So here I've got a div heading, so it's got a class heading. font size is 2 M's. Now M's are pretty good sizes. If I said 2 M's, that's a pretty good width. So M's are great. So think of M's are not granular. I'm not able to get it fine-tuned down to a specific little piece. So if I want to go 2 M's, that's it. I go 1 M or 2 M's. There's not a whole lot of in between there. Percentages, I talked about those. Here's an X, EX, and that's the height of an X. And I think, are they using it's a lowercase x, okay? So here is a times X, and here is an Arial X. Notice that the Arial X is a little taller. So again, depending on the size of the font X is the size of the EX size. Pixel units, these are basically again, number of pixels on your screen. So if we look at the CSS property description, so here's what we're going to see throughout the book. So they're trying to set this up. So we're going to basically, this top part is going to be what we're looking at currently, and then it's going to show the value, and then it's going to show the 3 different options. So I can go thin, medium, or thick in this case on a border width. So I have to choose one of those, or I can do a length. So when you see the pipe symbols, those are the 3, or in this case 4 different things we can do for that particular item. Initial is medium, I mean that's kind of the default. It applies to all elements. It's inherited. No, it doesn't inherit from the parent. There's no parent to inherit from. And percentages are non-available. Okay. So the value is the keyword. Words within angle brackets, less than and greater than symbols, specify a variable unit, for example, length. The pipe, I talked about that. The 2 dashes side by side separate options. One or more of the values can occur. Within the boxes, square brackets, are properties that are basically kind of go together, and then question marks. It'll make a little more sense once we kind of move on from here, but they're trying to set you up. This is how it's going to look throughout the rest of the book. So let's talk about font properties. So these are all the different properties of the font CSS that we can use. I have the font family, the font face, the font size, the font style, the font variant, the font weight, the font stretch, the font size, adjust, and then the font, which is a shorthand property, and we don't really use that too much anymore. So in the font family property, we have the value, and there we're going to have the font family name, and we're going to have the generic family. Okay, we're going to use one or the other. The initial depends on the user agent. So what's the user going to basically supply? Applies to all elements, so all fonts within that particular. So if I just said my body's going to have this font, whatever, that's going to be everything within the body, unless I go in and change a specific item of which I override it. Inherited, yes, so it does inherit from the font that comes from above. Percentages, no, not available in this particular case. So let's talk about the generic font families. We have serif, sans serif, monospace, cursive, and fantasy. So we know what serif and non-serif are. Monospace, those are characters that every single character takes up the same exact space. So the small letter I and a capital letter W are going to take up the same space. So if I type in 5 characters, every 5 characters is going to take up this much space. With non-monospace, which is most all of the fonts out there, like say a letter T, a letter A, they kind of overlap. Okay, because a T will overhang an A, and it kind of takes up part of the A space. A letter I, a small case I, is going to take up very little, and a capital W is going to take up a lot more space. So with the non-monospace, or I believe I call them relative, they're going to take up whatever they need, and that's it. No more, no less. Cursive, we know what cursive is. And then fantasy fonts, those are some pretty wild fonts out there that wingdings, that type of thing that we try don't have a whole lot of access to, but it's available. But you got to do, there's again a lot of overhead to utilize those things. So it's just fonts, these fonts are primarily decorative. Fantasy is not widely used as a choice. So so if we take a look at the next figure, yeah, there we talked about the X. So the next figure, so here we've got a serif font, and it looks like it's Internet Explorer, and here's Firefox, lower left is Opera, and this one is Safari. So here we've got serif font, sans serif, monospace. Now notice monospace, we're going to see a lot more spacing between them, but you'll notice that, see if I can find the letter I. I don't see a letter I on there, lowercase I. But like the letter S, the capital letter S, and the lowercase l take up the same space. They're the same width. Cursive is a font. It's not really cursive what I'm thinking about, but cursives are they're almost a fantasy font. Let me just say that. Comic Sans, I believe, is a cursive font. So they look fairly similar in all four of those different browsers. So not too bad. So, so specific font families, where we can actually say we want this to be a specific. So here I want it to be Lucidia Council. Okay, so there's my default, and there's my font fallback. That's what if Lucidia is not available, it's going to automatically pick up whatever the council font. So I can actually say P, font family, Arial, Helvetica. Okay, so I just say font family, Arial, Helvetica. So if Arial's not available, it's going to basically grab Helvetica. I think if we take a look at here is this particular web page. It's using CSS for type design, and this guy basically has nothing. There's no style sheet at all within here. I just added this style and ending style, so we can add some styles in there, and then we have a finished one. We have a finished one down here where we have H1, here's our font size, here's our font family, which is Georgia and serif, and then text shadow, where we're doing 2 pixels, we'll talk about that in a little bit, and then we got a font family, Arial, so H2's got a font family of Arial and Helvetica, and then sans serif. So again, if Arial's not available and Helvetica's not available, just grab the default sans serif font is what we're saying there. And that's what we're saying up here. If Georgia's not available, just go ahead and grab the default serif font. We got a .copy class where the font family is going to be Georgia. The line height is going to be 1.5 ems. The margin left is going to be 20 pixels. So depending on what screen size you have, it's going to grab that. So we have a caps class where we do a text transform to uppercase. We're going to convert everything to uppercase, and the font weight's going to be bold, and we're going to end it. Okay, so down here I've got H1 using CSS style for design. So again, what is that? It's going to be a Georgia, which is a serif font. We have some text shadowing, which we haven't covered that yet, but that's basically what it looks like. I don't think the shadow comes through in. Let me see what that looks like in IE. Yeah, I'm not seeing the shadow. Okay, so anyways, we can specify a font face. We talked about that. It looks like we're doing a font face. We can okay. So here's where it gets kind of crazy. I can say I want a font face, and the font family is going to be Generica. Now, Generica is not a standard font. Not all computers are going to have that font installed. And what we're telling it is the source of this guy is going to be from www.generic.conf foms generica.ttf. So when it loads this web page, it's going to go to that website, download that TTF file to your temporary computer so that you can utilize that font. Okay. Again, like I said, a lot of overhead. It's bringing a lot of stuff in. Depends on your internet speed. Depends on all the stuff you've got available to you at that time. And then when we go ahead and we use the Generica, that's all we got to do. Yeah, and they kind of go on with more detail there as well. So, font size. So here I've got my value. I got absolute size, relative size, length, or percentage. So I got 4 different options I can use there. The initial is medium. It applies to all elements. It's inherited. Computed value is inherited from the font type, whatever type that's basically utilized. And then percentage, again, that basically we can specify a percentage is what they're basically saying. So some of the absolutes we have is XX small, X small, which is extra, extra large small, or extra, extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, and double extra large. And those are actual terms we can use. So to see what those look like, this is basically what it looks like. So if I say absolute, and I've picked a font from a font family, and if I say I want that font to be extra, extra small, that's how small it's going to get. If I said made it extra small, that's how small it would be. This is medium, that's large, extra large, double X. If I do percentages, that's what they look like. If I do M's, 0.75 M, 0.85, 1, 1.25, 1.5, 2. So I can basically utilize it to the size of the letter M. If I do pixels, here's 10 pixels, 14, 18, okay? So this lower left or lower right hand corner is probably the one that's used most commonly. And basically what does that look like? Well, I could do this. I could come in here and I could say H1 is going to be xx.large. I guess what I say, font size, that'd be font size. And let me save it and then basically go to it. So that's what it looks like right now. If I do a refresh, maybe. What am I in? I don't think I'm in the right file, so let me go in there real quick. Hold on. Okay, so oh, frustration. So font size extra, extra large, and that's what I put. Why is that not working? Well, it looks like it was working. So if I go back into here, I made it extra, extra small, and that's what it looks like now. So then I can come in here and change it to extra small. Do a refresh. Got a little bigger, not much, but a little bit bigger. I can do small. Got a little bigger. And let me just take it all the way to large. And do a save. And voila, you can see that. Now let me go ahead and make it extra X. Let me make it X, just 1X. I think H1 defaults to extra, extra large. That's why it wasn't changing. Say it got a little bigger, and again, I changed it to 2X and save, and there we have it. Okay, so you kind of see how we can use the font size property. Okay, so then we can use this thing called a font style. A font style is basically we can make it italic or oblique, which the difference is really subtle. There's not much of a difference between italic and oblique. It's really hard to see it. So if we did this, we see it went to italics, and now let me change it to oblique. Do a refresh, and it kind of leaned a little bit more to the right is really all that it did for oblique. So again, basically the same. I think oblique is really leans really italic, but that's about it. Okay, we have font variant. We can make things normal or small caps. Okay, so you just type font variant, small caps. Okay, let's try it. So come in here and I say so you see what it did there? It made everything uppercase, but it used the uppercase letter for the first letter, and then everything behind that is a shorter height. That's called small caps. Kind of cool. That means they're all caps, but the words that are usually lowercase have been made smaller caps, is really all. Okay, so continuing on. Next we have is called font weight, and we can go normal, bold, bolder, lighter, and then we can actually go a degree of darkness, 100 all the way up to 900. So again, font dash weight colon, we'll say bold. I think it's already bold. Let's make it bolder and see if it does anything. This one's kind of wild because it doesn't always react the same way. So I can make it bolder. Yeah, let's make it lighter. That's probably where we're going to really see a big bang for our buck. So let me make it lighter. Yeah. So again, font weight, and then we can actually use the 100 all the way through the 900 to make it slightly darker. And again, that really depends on the browser. They're not always going to look the same there. Some don't recognize the 100 through 900, so it doesn't matter if you choose 900 or 100, they're going to look the same. So really, you have to kind of play around with that one. The bold and the lighter are the ones that tend to work across the board there. Font stretch. How much do you want that font to basically wide? You know, you can make your font really wide or really narrow. So we can go normal to extra condensed or extra expanded. So let's try that. So font stretch. So there's extra condensed. I'm gonna take off the small caps. Okay, so there is extra condensed working. This is also one of those ones that doesn't work across all browsers equally either. So, so let's try wider and narrower. Let's see what that looks like. I think those are the ones that probably work. So we'll say narrower. Yeah. Let's try wider. Yeah. So do we not have, maybe we don't have, let me see what we got going on here. Yeah, we didn't have doc type. So it's not HTML5. Let's see if that makes a difference. Yeah, it's kind of hit or miss sometimes with some of these new ones. Let me try ultra condensed. Yeah, it's not working. Okay, so take note. We have a font shortcut property. Okay, I can say font 12-point Arial sans serif. Okay, so what I can do is I can put in the font style. I can put on the font variant, the font weight, the font size, and then the line height. So basically here's what they've done. They've done a font 12-point Arial sans serif. So we could actually do this. Well, so I could do this if I can click on the right thing, and I'm going to say dot example1 font, which is Arial. Let's make it Georgia, and it's going to be comma 2p. Let's make it 28px. Or is it weight next? I can't remember. Font variant is style, variant, weight, and size. Okay. So let's make it bold. We'll end it right there. So now I got a class. So let me come in here and do a style, no, a span, class, example 1, and we'll end it over here, and we'll see what happens. Wow, it just seems like nothing's working today. Yeah, I do not know why that is not working. Um, hmm. That's frustrating. That should work. Okay. I'll play around with that, see what's going on. So the font property, yeah. Wow. Okay. Frustrating. Let's see if it works this way. Let me try this real quick. Let me try it on the H2 tag. So let me try H2. Let me go up and copy that. And let's see if that works. Yeah, it changed it. Okay, so and this is where it really gets frustrating, because all the different browsers treat it differently. And are you using HTML5? Do you have the latest and greatest browser version? Yeah, so it's hard to. It's kind of sometimes it's a moving target. So. So we have some different spacing properties. We have text indent, text align, text height, vertical align, letter spacing, word spacing, text decoration, text transform, and text shadow. So the first thing we have is this thing called the text indent, and that's going to be a length or a percentage. The initial is 0 and applies to the block element, whatever we happen to be using at the time. Percentages depends on, again, there's other features kind of going on there, and it does inherit. So if you are using a feature that is a child, it does inherit from its parent. Okay, so here I've got text indent 2 M's. So let's try that. So I come over here and I'm going to say text indent 3 M's. Do a save. Come over here, and boom, notice how that just indented 3 letter M's. Okay. Notice it jumped a lot. 3 M's is a lot, so it did jump a lot there. We have what is called text align. So I can have it align left, right, center, or justify. Justify is basically when the right margin always lines up with the left margin. So let's try that. So I'm going to say our P's are text align justify, and save it and see what happens to this particular. Notice that now the right margins always line up with the left margin, like a newspaper. It adds what are called ghost spaces in there, so everything is aligned properly. If I could have said right, everything would be aligned to the right. If I said left, that's the default. In fact, here's an example. There's the indentation. Here's an example. There's left, there's center, there's right align. Notice everything's aligned to right. Justify. Both sides are aligned. Line height. I can just say line height. So let's try that. I'll say 2 M's. Pretty good size. So let's see what that does. Come over here and do a refresh. Wow, look how the spacing it did for the lines there. So again, we can be very, very, very specific in our cascading style sheets. And that's kind of what they're spelling out here. So here's our standard height. Here's a 1.5 M's, 2 M's, and 2.25 M's. Just what we'd expect. Vertical alignment. We've got baseline, sub, super, top, text top, middle, bottom, text bottom. So let's do this. Let me basically say that I want my, well, let me come down here and do this. I'm going to say 32 to the 4th power. Okay, so I'm going to say text vertical is super, and let's see what that does. You're gonna fight me on this again, aren't you? Vertical align. Did I do that wrong? I believe I did. I said text vertical. It's vertical aligned. Let me save it. Now let's take a look. Oh, don't do this. Vertical align. Style vertical align is super. Let's try sub. Oh, you know, I forgot to do something here. I'm just going to do a I can't do a style within the text. My bad. There we go. Now it's subbed. Okay, now let me do it the other way. Just what I wanted to do, which is super. So I'm trying to show you what things not what to do. Okay. So now there's 32 to the 4th power. That's what I was trying to do in the first place. Yeah, you can't do styles within her. You have to do something and then a style within that. Okay. So this particular picture is showing there's superscripted, subscripted, top of the line, middle line. So it's top of the line, meaning that the tallest text is going to be aligned to the top of the tallest number, and the middle line is going to be basically aligned to the middle of the text. Okay. So notice that this D is aligned with T. This D is right. Notice this word text is right smack dab in the middle. Okay. We can do the same thing with, like, say we've got a border around a word. Well, here is a baseline, middle, and top. That is basically what this is basically displaying right here. This guy's baseline, this is middle, and this is top. We have letter spacing, normal, and then we can say a specific length. Okay, so we could do this. Is it letter? Yeah, word spacing. Okay. Word spacing. We'll say, oh, let's do 5 pixels. Let's look at up here, this second one here, do a refresh, and nothing. Oh, I hate that. So let's try this one down here, and let's do this one. let's do inside of here, let's do, is it word spacing. Let's save that and let's see if it works. Okay. Yep, it did. So it basically put that in there. Okay. So to continue on, there's word spacing. Again, we can do the M's, the pixels, all that, the percentages. No, percentages aren't available with that. Okay, so this is the default. Here's 1 pixel, 2 pixels, 4 pixels, 6 pixels, word spacing. Here's underline, overline. So I believe this is text decoration. Yep, text decoration. So there we can do underline, overline, line through, and blank. Blank does not work. I think it doesn't work anymore. It's been a long time since it's been used. So it's supposed to make it the word kind of flash like that on the screen, and I have not seen that used or got it somebody to use in a long time. So they might even say that over here that yeah. So let's try that. So text decoration. So I'm going to do text decoration. Let's do it up here. And save it. And now it's got a line through it. Okay. Text transform. I can take text to make it capitalized, uppercase, a lowercase, or none. So there we can say text transform. I can make everything uppercase. I do a save. I do a refresh. And everything is uppercase. Look at that. Pretty cool. I can do text shadow. I don't know. So here's what it does. Is the first 2 length values indicate the horizontal and vertical offset. How much this way you want to go off and how much this way you want to go off. So think of taking a snapshot of that letter, and you're going to basically move it over this way and down. Okay, so if you've got 2 pixels, it's going to take that snapshot, move it over 2 and down. The third one, let's see. The third length specifies the blur amount, which determines how much soft edges the outline will display. So think of it as, again, it's going to blur it. So do you want it really blurred, or do you want it have more sharp edges? So you want the edges soft or kind of non-soft. And then that last one is, what color is the shadow going to be? I think 666 is kind of a gray color. So if it's black, it's going to be gray. I think it's going to look... That's word spacing. So here's text shadow. So here's 2 pixels, 2 pixels, and X. So again, it's offset by 2, down 2. 0, 0 blur, and it's got like a gray. If we look over here, we've got 3 pixels. Here's 4 pixels where it basically really blurs it, and again, it's 666. Okay, same thing over here. With 0, that really makes it hard to read with the 4 pixels as blur, that really makes it look nice. So again, if you're going to make the offset vertical and horizontal big, you really need to make that blur big as well. Notice the small blur with no blur, or the small horizontal and vertical with no blur doesn't look too bad. I would always go with a blur. I would always go with a blur. Currently unsupported CSS3. These are ones that are basically, if you use them, you can't use them with the latest and greatest. So white space, text wrap, word wrap, text align last, text emphasis, text outline, font stretch, font size adjust. Those are ones that are no longer supported. Okay, so this last one is the activity. Please go through that on your own. The HTML is out there. Get it. Add each one of these to the page as you go along. Step through it. It will really help you a lot. Please do that on your own, and we'll see you next chapter.